balancing the pros and cons of a particular decision through that decision does help you give more information, does help you get more information about that particular decision. However, what it doesn't do is make you more confident in all of your decisions in the future, and it doesn't make those easier. So how do we do that? What our actions do today, are there even actions that we could do today that would make decisions easier for us in our lives today and then maybe tomorrow and in the future? And I'm going to argue today, or at least describe to you today, that there is. Welcome to Mental Fortress Mondays. I am Dr. Cheryl Carthouse, naturopathic doctor, and I am here on Mental Fortress Mondays to explore the who, what, where, when, why, and how of mindfulness and mindfulness-based practices and how they can impact our lives. And today we're talking about the impact of decision making. I know a number of people who have a very, very difficult time making decisions. And that means that really all of them end up being difficult. Some that are more life-changing, some that maybe are less impactful in your life, and still the decision can be difficult. It gets even more difficult when it feels like there's a bigger investment, like buying a house or spending a whole lot of money on something, or if it's going to be something that influences our lives or the lives of other people, especially if you have dependents and other people that you're making those decisions for, or that it's going to impact. So do you have a difficult time making decisions? And do you second guess yourself? Do you have buyer's remorse? All of these things show that we lack confidence in the decision-making process. So for most people, when that ends up being an issue, making difficult decisions, it's a trend. So it happens with all of these decisions. Again, some of those are big, some of them are small, some of them may influence our lives more than others. And so it's not really about any one particular decision. It's really about the confidence of overall decision making. And that's really an important point, because we often will get stuck ruminating on one particular decision. What are all the pros and the cons, and going over it 1,000 times and really trying to understand, like, well, maybe I missed something because I'm not getting enough information for this one particular decision. But it's not really about that decision. It's more about your ability to make one decision with confidence. Any decision with confidence. And so we're going to address that feeling of confidence for all of those decisions. So there's a few things that we can do to help decrease overall something that's called decision fatigue. And this is to actually make space for bigger decisions that we might need to make in a particular day, or, maybe we're going to think about that decision for a few days. But when we can decrease decision fatigue, it means that we have a little bit more of that mental resilience, a little bit more mental energy in order to actually then make these decisions, or even think about them and introduce these decisions. So how do we decrease decision fatigue? We do not realize the number of decisions that we make every single day. And so one of the ways to do this is actually to pre-make a lot of these decisions. Something like, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to wear today? What are all these little tasks that could have essentially pre-made decisions already set in place for us, so that we don't need to go through the steps and the mental exhaustion, if you want to bring it to an extreme, of actually creating all of those decisions. So that means picking out your outfit the night before. It means maybe on certain days of the week, you're going to have this particular breakfast, or maybe you have the same breakfast every single day. And the same goes for each meal. Maybe this day of the week, if you actually get into a routine and a meal plan, we don't need to create those decisions anymore because they're already done. And it means one less taxing thing for your brain to worry about in that decision-making department, compared to if we needed to do these every single day, every single time. Does that make sense? So we decrease the decision fatigue by pre-making a lot of those decisions. And those examples would be, as I mentioned, what are your clothes? Pick those out the night before. Maybe you wear the same thing every Monday, and that just takes that decision out altogether. Maybe on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, you make one big pot of something for breakfast, like soup, and you eat that soup every day for breakfast. And then on Wednesday, you make something else, and that's your breakfast for the rest of the week. Whatever those little things are that we can make and pre-decide so that we have more mental energy for those decisions later. And then so what happens when it comes to those bigger decisions is that we have a little bit more of that mental resilience in order to make them. And we want to try and allow that mental space and that mental energy for those little bit more challenging things. And in my experience, it's always one decision that truly might feel right to you when it comes to a particular issue or a big purchase or a life-changing decision. And it's really trying to get super, super clear and aligned with what might be that decision for you in order to really then feel confident going forward in that. So a couple things need to happen. One, we need to know what your baseline is so that when that wavers in either a positive direction or a negative direction, we understand what that is. And then two, we need to be able to create the understanding of the space where we make decisions. So when we understand that a decision that's going to be really influential in our lives and maybe even more anxiety provoking is that if it's going to have an influence in other people's lives, we want to get comfortable with that overall feeling of anxiety and fear to begin with. Because when this kind of anxiety and fear sort of perks up in us, it can be really hard to understand and to be super clear with what we're feeling. So one, we want to be super understanding of what our baseline is, so we can understand when we waver in a positive or negative direction in terms of what's aligned with us. And two, we want to actually really understand how we react in these anxiety-invoking situations and then be able to take steps forward in that space and be super comfortable in that space. So if we get comfortable with the unknown and comfortable with the uncomfortable, that helps us with number two. That helps us to really understand how we're going to react in that anxiety invoking space. And when we feel anxiety, that feeling of anxiety can be separate from the feeling of the problem. Does that make sense? So we're going to, one, get super comfortable with our baseline and know what that is. And then two, get comfortable with the idea of feeling uncomfortable in a really difficult decision. And what are the different things that people often will try to do in some of these situations, especially if meditation is one of their tools, is that they meditate on a particular problem. And again, that might go through the pros and the cons in a ton of different ways that could be helpful for information for that problem. It doesn't change our ability to make decisions, and it doesn't give us more confidence in our decisions. So when we meditate, even when we're struggling with a particular type of decision, of course, that might, cloud our memory or cloud our mind and kind of get in there, and we are going to be thinking about it a lot, and that's perfectly okay. The idea, however, of meditation and our goal would actually still be to get aligned with all of the sensations in your body and really understand what your baseline is. Observe those sensations as they come up, see those sensations, let them go so that you feel grounded and whole and in a space where you know exactly how you're feeling, so that when a choice or when information comes up, you can be really clear about what that information means to you, whether it feels aligned in exactly how you are feeling grounded and whole and all that kind of stuff, or that it's wavering and it just kind of gives you a bit of a negative feeling. So when we meditate to understand how we feel at that baseline, that gives us that information. And then when we meditate to see how we feel at that baseline and we're sitting with these sensations that tend to be uncomfortable, we get a lot of practice with feeling uncomfortable. And often even practice with those anxiety type feelings or sometimes those fear type feelings of the unknown. And when we get comfortable with that, it helps to address that second element. So course, there's some other things that we can use in terms of tools, like making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you've eaten well and that you're not hungry, making sure that your mind is clear from all of those physical things that we can do something about before engaging in a really important talk or a really important decision, maybe even before weighing those pros and cons. And then as we practice mindfulness and a mindfulness-based practice, particularly this body scan where we pay attention to sensations, it helps us to understand, one, our baseline, so that we can understand when information pulls us more towards a grounding state or out of that and kind of gives us a little bit of those anxiety feelings, which will always present as a physical sensation, which is why we pay attention to those physical sensations. And then two, it's going to help us to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. And that always comes up with difficult decisions when people have those anxiety sort of feelings around them. And so thank you so much for joining everyone this morning. We're going to go through a little mindfulness exercise. So if you can get comfortable, if you're seated, that's great. You can close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. We'll always just start by paying attention to your breath. And just noticing the breath move in and out of your nose. And the breath is an amazing tool if you find that it's grounding, because it's always with us, and you can engage in this kind of meditation anytime that you need to, when you need to just kind of settle your nervous system a little bit. So just paying attention to your breath as it moves in and as it moves out through your nose, and noticing any of the sensations that happen with that movement, especially through your nostrils and your upper lip. You might find that there's movement of your chest or your body, your diaphragm at the same time. You can pay attention to those sensations and then just move your awareness back to your breath that's coming out through your nose and your upper lip. A little triangle between your nostrils and your upper lip. If you can be in a quiet space and close your eyes, it's the best way to practice meditation because we take away all of the distractions. It's hard to feel some of the super subtle feelings and sensations when we have those distractions. We tend to feel the big ones though. And then when you're ready, just bring your awareness to the top of your head. And if you need to, just place a finger there so that you can actually feel that particular spot. So that awareness and the attention being drawn there is a little easier. And then just melt your awareness down over your head, over your face. Maybe you do one side of your head at a time, or maybe you can do the whole thing, whatever feels easier to you. And noticing any of the sensations there, and the important part is to do this without judgment. Don't place meaning or try and interpret exactly what these sensations mean. It's just to observe them until they go, or to observe them until you go, with your attention moving on to something else. You can continue to move your attention down the front side of your body, down one shoulder, down your arm, down your forearm, all the way out to your fingertips. And then on the other side, down one shoulder, down your arm to your elbow, all the way out to your fingertips. And then moving down the front side of your body, maybe starting at your neck, and down the front side of your body, down your chest and your abdomen, and just noting again if there's any sensations here. Often there tend to be big ones in our abdomen. That's where a lot of people hold anxiety. We can hold it in any space in our body. And again, just noticing those sensations, not trying to change any of them without judgment. If it helps to be curious, just explore it. What are the boundaries or borders of that particular sensation? If it had a texture, what texture would it be? If it had a color, what color would it be? And just note how it changes, even if that's subtle. Does it get bigger or smaller? Is it moving? Does it change shape? And again, just without judgment, being curious if you need to, and then moving your awareness down, continuing on your body. So we cover every little piece. Maybe starting at the back of your neck again and moving your awareness down your spine, over to each of the left and right sides. Down over your sits bones. Maybe you feel a cushion underneath your bum. Moving your awareness down one leg, around all sides of your leg, out to your toes, and then starting at the other hip and moving your awareness down your leg, all the way out to your toes. And you can move your awareness from your toes all the way back up your body at whatever pace suits you. Maybe you do a couple body scans in just a few minutes, up and down. Or maybe you do only one in 15 minutes. Any pace that works for you is absolutely fine. The goal isn't to do meditation in a particular way. It's just to continue to pay attention and bring your awareness back. And if you're bringing your awareness back to those sensations, you've been successful. And continue to move your awareness then up your legs. Maybe you're doing both at the same time. Again, to your pelvis and noticing any of the pressure of the seat if you're sitting. And moving your awareness up your body, up your back, the sides of your body, the front of your body. And as your mind wanders, just bring it back to your particular task right now, which is just to notice any sensations, to explore your body for sensations, and just observe them and then move on. And bringing your awareness to your fingertips and up your arm, bit by bit. Maybe doing both arms at the same time, or maybe just one at a time. And all the way up to your shoulder and around your neck. And maybe there's deeper sensations sometimes that you feel. Maybe there are more surface sensations. And then moving your awareness up your head, maybe one side of your head and then the other. Maybe the back of your head and maybe the front of your face. And some areas you might find are a lot easier to feel than others, and then others are going to be a little more challenging. That happens a lot. And bring your awareness just up to the tip top of your head again. And then moving your awareness to your breathing as you breathe in and out of your nose. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring yourself back. Thank you so much for joining this morning here on Mental Fortress Mondays. I'd love to hear your experiences. Let me know if you think any of this resonates with you. If you have questions, you can leave comments below or message me. Have a wonderful week.